let's do it. I love it, Haley. Let's go.
All right, cool. All right, so today I am chatting with Gabriel Finochio. Gabriel, thank you so much for joining me today on Kindled.
Thanks for having me, Haley.
So why don't you tell the audience who you are and what you do before we get started?
Yeah, so I am a Bible teacher. My brother and I started an organization called Theos U about a year and a half ago. And we were both working at respective local churches. And I was in Pennsylvania, where I still am. And Nathan was in New York City. And we had been teaching what we call evening college, which is just, Bible school for baby boomers. No, but it was Bible school, evening Bible school on a Monday and a Tuesday night, that we would take people through the book of Romans or Hebrews or basic doctrine or book, just a general Bible survey. And we'd been doing that for, as I said, a number of years. And we both sensed a transition in our lives, just a switch. Nathan moved out to LA and stepped off staff, and I was feeling a transition myself, and we just put our brains together and we were like, what if we put all of our stuff online? Nobody's doing this right now. Nobody's making, our heart was always to make biblical theology literate, or not literate, accessible. We found that people were biblically illiterate and this is the clincher, doctrinally illiterate. Because it's one thing to know your Bible, it's another thing to know what the Bible means.
Yes.
Right? There's a lot of...
My pastor says that all the time.
Come on, I love your pastor.
Yeah.
Satan quoted scripture to Jesus when he was tempting him. Yeah. It's the whole point of heresy is that it twists the truth. And so people need to know the truth, not just the twisted truth, but the actual untwisted truth, so that it can set them free. And so our heart has always been to bring more access to Orthodox, historic, biblical theology into mainstream. And so we just put it online. We put all our stuff online, started this organization called Theos U. You can find it at theosu.ca. We have an app in the App Store, and people have just responded, and it's really done really well. And there's my cat.
Oh, wow. I was like, is there an octopus behind you? I see a tail. And
exactly. Her name is Girl, and she is, she can't, her curiosity cannot be. Yeah. She can't help it. So if you're not seeing the video, there's a cat behind you. Anyways, there's a cat walking all around this video. So anyway, all that to say, that's kind of what I do now full time. I just make content for that. I make videos and I film hot topics. We talk. We actually go everywhere we can. We don't just deal with biblical themes in terms of sticking with like an expositional biblical format. We also apply scripture and biblical theology to the cultural moment.
Yes.
We go there. We talk definitively about homosexuality, about LGBTQ issues, about critical race theory, about woke theology, about things that people are trying to grapple with in today's society, divorce and remarriage, things that are sticky and difficult, and you're going to get your hands dirty, and it's not comfortable. The conversation isn't always comfortable, but it has to be had. We have to talk about the truth. So anyway,
well, I resonate with all of that. As I was telling you before we started recording, that's kind of the same space that I like to go, is the conversations that are difficult and maybe that Christians historically or even today have sort of avoided because they are the uncomfortable and hard conversations. Like all of the culture, all the places that culture says we have the answer is where we as believers need to step towards that. And instead of being like, oh no, we don't really like that, but we're going to sit in our pews and just pray that God changes your heart. No, we need to actually step into that conversation and have, a meaningful dialogue around
Yes.
what is true, because people have written Christians off like long ago. America, I mean,
Yes.
we know it was founded on biblical principles, but it has departed so much. And I think so much of that is due to the fact that Christians segregated themselves away from the culture and we stopped being salt and light. And I think that's unfortunate. But I'm also very glad now to see that there are people who are stepping towards the darkness with the light, rather than just like being like, no, don't come near us, don't touch us, we're over here.
Yeah, I completely agree. It reminds me, I actually have this quote on hand, and I wasn't prepared for this. Obviously, you didn't send me these questions or topics
True.
before, but I have this quote here by a guy named Christopher Dawson, who is a Catholic historian, one of the greatest Catholic historians of the last 100 years, and he loved Jesus, and he was, I would consider him to be a born again believer, but he said, if the state has become too totalitarian, it's because the average Christian hasn't been totalitarian enough. He's acquiesced in the secularization of life. He's allowed his own aims to be divided and his religion to become a sectarian affair, cut off from his real interests in life.
Wow.
Like that, that is exactly what has happened. We have ceded all of this territory to the enemy. We have said, our religion is our private thing that we do on Sundays, and it's inapplicable to all the real interests and applications of life. And the enemy can have everything, every other sphere, all the things that the enemy can take over the arts, the enemy can take over the universities, the enemy can have everything, and we'll just be happy with our
Mm-hmm.
5,000 person mega churches,
We'll just develop a contemporary Christian music industry, and we'll live with that.
Yeah, we'll develop our subculture.
Yes.
Instead of developing counterculture,
yeah.
we've created this subterfuge.
Yes.
Thinking that it's adequate, and the truth is that it's actually moved us into appeasement, where the crocodile, where we're saying we're hoping that the crocodile eats us last.
Yeah, that's so true. Wow.
So anyway,
yeah.
I'm totally in agreement with this. I think Allie Stuckey.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a fan of her.
Big fan. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, she actually, I would recommend reading a series of tweets that she had about this, I think a few weeks ago. And she was just talking, I can't remember what date she wrote them on, but it was just, it was an amazing series of tweets where she was saying this same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We have conceded.
Yes.
And we should never have conceded.
I did see that. And she was like, this is like kind of everything that's happening is a result of Christians ceding culture to the world. And we have given ground at the university level. We have given ground here. We have given ground here. And I even heard her talk about that on an episode recently, probably around the same time. And it was exactly right. It's totally true. And it should be convicting to all of us, and also should prompt us to change. Like, okay, so take some action, like stop. Why are we so afraid? Why are the people with the knowledge that they have, the truth about the universe from the guy that created it, from the God who made it, why are those with absolute truth and the confidence that they know what it is, the most afraid and standoffish and squeamish about talking about it? Why are we, and I don't even mean in an evangelistic way, I just mean, why are we always the first to bow out of any difficult conversation, to be like, well, I mean, I don't know, like, I'm not sure, like, why does everyone want to pretend like they don't know? Because we want to pretend like we don't have the answer to the questions that people are asking about. Are there more than two genders? Or is this a natural form of sexuality, or whatever it may be, And so I think so many places that that we have done that, and I think we're seeing the results of that. And we're also seeing why God told us to be salt and light, because the world desperately needs the influence of his children and believers on it. It needs it, to even continue existing. I mean, obviously God is the one upholding it, but to continue, to keep it from, devouring its own young, which is what you and I are going to talk about. Like, we are essential. We're critical.
Yes, I completely agree. And it's what we're seeing is, in my opinion, the formation of a new religion in secularism, in essentially in humanism, secular humanism. We're seeing this new kind of idea emerge, like formally and officially, that's always been latent, I think, in modernism. But it's like this you can see it in communism, where it's like people worship the state, people worship the government, people worship, Chesterton famously said, wherever people don't worship God, they'll worship the next most powerful thing in the world. They'll worship the world, and in worshiping the world, they'll worship the most powerful thing in the world. And the most powerful thing in the world is government. And so that you see how people look to the government to turn the government into God, thinking that it gives them everything, and it can give them all the food they want and all of the protection they need, and all the total and complete security and sufficiency in all things. And that's what communism offers. That's what these economic forms of secularism and humanism offer. And it's a new religion. It's essentially, and so it's people, and that is what. So my thing is this: like, I really, on a political level, I really believe that we're not seeing a classic battle between right and left ideas. What we're seeing is the emergence of a new axis. And so what we call the left is actually a totally different vertical line with its own right and left on it.
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
And so it's like the old left were guys who were, maybe like they would agree that there is a God. They would agree with the Christian civilization. They would agree that that our heritage was Christian, we are culturally Christian, and that even though they may have been even personal atheists, they would have said, yeah, we need Christianity. Yeah, we this is, and maybe we disagree on certain issues. That's like the old liberal left. But this is not the old liberal left. This isn't your grandma's leftist politics. This is a new leftism in that sense. And it is essentially the formation of a new militant, arrogant atheism and belief that there is some divine quality about human government, and we can solve the issue here.
Yeah. And I mean, man, I didn't have you on to talk about this. Now I'm like, well, I have more things to say to you. And I think you're tapping into something that actually would help people if they could understand it. And it would help Christians who, I know a lot of believers, a lot of friends of mine, even myself, have had trouble reconciling the fact with the fact that our family or our friends have voted for what we see as the new left and this new axis of evil that it really is. But it's cloaked in old democracy, old democratic values. It's cloaked in that. It's sold as that. And yet we know it's not that. We see it for what it is. We're like, look, I know that you are a moderate to, that friend or that family member. I know that you are maybe leaning liberal, but you are not. I know that you are not what they are, but you don't see the difference. You just see them as like, well, this is the option on the left, and I don't agree with the right on these issues, or I don't like Donald Trump, so I'm voting this way. And you're like, okay, like I have to preach to myself the reality that I know you are not that, and you don't even necessarily want that, but you don't see the difference. You've not been able to discern that there really is a fundamental difference there. And if people could understand that on both sides, like, we would be in a much better spot as a nation. I don't think we'd be as divided as we are, because we would unite together against that, whatever that is.
I agree because I do think that there's so many people being deceived, and they're being bribed. Really, they're being they're being manipulated by this idea of, no, it's just politics as usual. No, it's not anything new. We just don't want we don't want far right extremists. But those far right extremists are actually it compared to the old right extremists, modernists or moderates.
Yes.
They're moderates. Like the axis has moved so far,
right,
that the old is moderate compared to what it used to be.
right.
And so we've actually moved, so like that's part. And I'll say this, Haley, like partly why I think even conservatism needs a rebrand is because conservatism has conceded, as we've talked about in earlier, that conservatism, in my opinion, has just been progressivism with a seatbelt, or conservatism has been progressivism going the speed limit. It's like it's like we have slowly, like it used to be that, no, we're against gay marriage. Now gay marriage is a part of the platform as a conservative.
We've abandoned that fight altogether.
We don't talk about that anymore. We've totally conceded that.
Lost that one, right?
Yeah, it's like lost it, but also now it's a part of our agenda. Like, no, we're keeping that.
Yeah.
We're totally keeping that. So it's like we lose, and then we just we embrace the loss instead of saying, no, we're actually for us, this is beyond just like left right issues. This is a new way of living, and we should call it what it is. We're moving into. This is a society that is totally godless, that people are that very few people actually want. But we have to identify it, and we have to really, as you said, just call it out and recognize it, because people are definitely being deceived on this.
And I feel like a lot of conservatives just it's like you said, the moderates have moved, or I'm sorry, the extremists on the right have moved so far towards the middle that now we're moderates, and we're just grasping at straws to cling to any semblance of morality or a standard that is reminiscent of the past. And so we have given ground, and I mean collectively we have given ground on the gay marriage issue, or and it seems like, okay, that's been lost. So, and now let's create a movement that is big enough to defeat the enemy, the bad guy. And so we have turned towards populism, which is just kind of trying to get people all on board around these. Okay, sure, we can agree on gay marriage. Okay, but can we not agree on socialism? So it's like we've tried to take over. We've tried to grow the movement by giving ground. Would you agree with that idea?
Yeah, and it moves into abortion as well, and yes. I wrote about this a few days ago. I wrote a little essay on my Instagram, which is the only place I really write. And I just said, this is why I'm giving you 5 reasons why I'm not pro-life. And I tried to make it as clear as possible, but because of this, Haley, what's happened is we've become, we've tried to make the abortion issue, into this, oh no, we want everybody to feel included so that we can just kind of, include everyone and make the movement so much broader. And that's a progressive way of looking at it, instead of saying, no, what's our actual goal here? Is our goal to, as good as all these things are, is our goal to talk about capital punishment or euthanasia, or people are talking about euthanasia. I want to talk about the youth in Canada, in America. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
I got it.
It was a dad joke. I had to do the dad joke.
I love it.
Couldn't resist. So here's the thing. People are are trying to include even like, crisis pregnancy centers. Like, I'm all for crisis pregnancy centers. Let's start them. Let's give therapy to offer therapy to women who have had abortions. Let's do all of these things. That's fine. But the movement has become what's called pro-life, and it's merged now into whole life, and saying, and now our arguments have been turned back on us.
Yes.
And people are like, you say you're pro-life, but you're for the death penalty. You say you're pro-life, but you're going to march with COVID-19 when people could die. This is the pro-life march. Okay, so this infuriates me. The pro-life march, which I march in every single year in Washington, D.C., which is supposed to be going on in 3 days, has been canceled. They canceled the pro-life march, the largest pro-life march in America. We're talking about like 100,000 people and plus marching in the streets, tens of thousands of people marching in the streets every year, declaring and protesting against abortion. They canceled that this year because they wanted to. They were thinking about the safety of the protesters from COVID-19 and the safety of the police officers. And I'm thinking to myself, Black Lives Matter literally does whatever they want. Protests, like if you're on the left, you can protest anything, anywhere, anytime. Nobody gets in your way.
Asked, yeah.
But if you but we look at the because we're whole life, we consider the safety. I don't consider my safety when I'm protesting abortion. I'm giving my life for that issue. I'm not considering anything. I'm saying when I stand up for abortion, I'm saying that's the whole point of a protest. The whole point is that you throw yourself into this, that it's you look at it as your moral duty. You look at it as you're not looking for a thing that's politically opportune. It's like, oh yeah, this fits here, so we're going to do it. No, you do it because it's right, regardless of you're protesting. It's like come rain or shine. This is what I'm doing. I'm standing here. I'm walking through this. And it's
we've become so afraid of, like you said, the argument that's been hijacked and now turned against us, and we're not recognizing that and going, no, I'm sorry, you don't get to steal the language, redefine it, and then light it on fire and throw it at me. I reject that. That's
exactly.
That's not gonna hold any power over me, because it's a completely empty argument when you look at it. To be honest, the whole pro all life, we're pro all life, as though you can somehow be pro all life and still be for abortion, because it's by definition murder. So it's
irrelevant. What's happened, Haley, is that it's done is slow the movement down. All it's done is bloat the movement, so that the movement is essentially immobile. That we're moving in all these different directions, and so we're not really moving in any direction. That's the problem. So what I want to do, I want to move I want to get a lean, mean, abortion wrecking machine. I now call myself anti-abortion. When people are like, you're supposed to be pro-life, I say, nope, I'm anti-abortion. I'm anti this idea that we should murder innocent preborn children in the womb. I am anti that. Whatever can stop that, that's what I'm interested in. William Wilberforce wasn't, oh yeah, like, he was anti-slavery, but he wasn't like, oh yeah, and let's make sure everybody gets jobs afterwards.
Exactly.
Once we free them. Yeah. And I'm pro-job. That's really why I'm anti-slavery. It's like, no, he had an anti-slavery. He was called an abolitionist. That's a negative term, because it was trying to root out a bad idea. It was against. It's like, I want to be known for what I'm for, not for what I'm against. No, I want to be known for what I'm against. I'm against slavery, and I'm against, in this context, I'm against murdering
Yeah.
babies.
Well, and to your point, like that is a criticism I have heard people level at the idea of being anti-abortion is, well, I want to be known for what I'm for. However, when you are known for, and I think we're oversimplifying it as though the only thing you're going to say every day of your life is I'm anti-abortion, I'm anti-abortion. Like there's a lot more to the conversation than that. However, when you are clear about what you're against, that contains within it an inherent positive about what you're for.
Right.
Because if you are anti the thing that is ending a life, well, why would you be that other than that you value the life? Why would you?
Exactly.
It contains within it. Whereas just saying we're pro-life isn't clear about being explicitly anti-abortion in any way. It's just,
Yeah.
it's like saying that we like life, and then, well, what about the life of the mother? That's always the first thing. Well, I guess you only like one life. Well, you're valuing the baby more than the mother, so you really don't value. You're not pro-life.
Exactly.
You're just
Exactly.
pro fetus. You're just pro
Yeah.
unborn baby, but you're not pro
You're
the
pro
mother.
birth. You're
Pro birth,
pro birth.
right?
It's like, no, it's so dumb. These issues, again, like, and there are people, that's the other sad thing is that now to be pro-life, it's moved into this anti-capital punishment movement. I'm not anti-capital punishment. I'm pro-capital punishment.
Right.
I am pro-capital punishment for capital crimes. That is biblical. That is theological. That is historic. The church, I mean, I'm sorry, and Pope Francis can't change. He can't even change the dogma of his own church. He can make his own statements, and he's apparently he's made a statement about capital punishment and tried to change the catechism or something like that. And Catholic friends of mine tell me this, but it's like, no, the church is historically against, or the church is historically pro capital punishment for capital crimes. It recognizes that even in the Bible, Genesis chapter 9, God says to Noah, makes a positive law and says, any man who sheds man's blood, his blood shall also be shed by man, for man was made in the image of God. So the whole point is that life is so sacred that if you shed it, if you kill it, you have to give your own, in that sense, that in order to expiate your sin, your debt, you have, in order to make satisfaction for the crime that you've committed, your own is required. And I'm not saying that we need capital punishment for manslaughter and things like that, but I am saying, are you there?
Oh, what happened? There we go.
I think honestly, actually, I think that was on me. My battery is, hold on one second here.
Okay, sure.
I forgot to plug my thing in here. Okay.
Oh, no worries.
Okay, here we go. So all that to say, it's now I have to agree that capital punishment is bad because I'm pro-life. It's just, it's again, you're just adding, you're what you're doing is you're weakening the morale in the movement.
Yeah. Well, and anyone, it's also just intellectually dishonest. I feel like it is from my perspective, it is a pathetic attempt to try and turn our intent and our focus, inside out and upside down and cut the legs out from under us. And I think only someone who does not have the capacity to see through the deception and who doesn't have their eyes open would be like, oh yeah, you're right. I can't be against capital punishment because that would be me not valuing life, and that's inconsistent as a pro-lifer. I need to be for life, as though the reason we wouldn't do capital punishment is because a life was taken. It's like,
right.
It just is. It's mind-blowing almost how idiotic it is actually when you start to break it down. But these arguments are having sway over a culture that has no moral framework and no definition of absolute truth, and they're compelling. These arguments are compelling to people. I have friends, I have people that were at my old church who believe that this pro all life description is actually like a good thing. They're like, yeah, that's it, there it is, that's what we were missing, that's the missing key to connecting how we as Christians can now vote Democrat, which maybe we've always done, but we were sort of secretively like kind of like shameful about it. We didn't think there was and now there's this justification because like, oh, that's why it's pro all life. Like that's what I was missing,
Yeah. Republicans only think about babies. They don't think about anything after that. All they care about, but really, let's render that logically and literally. Republicans only care about murdering innocent babies. They don't care about if those babies have any food after they're born. I'm like, because that's a moral equivalence, right? Yeah. I have that's a zero sum game, right? Or that's
I just want people to be born. I don't want them to be fed. I just want them to be born. I want babies everywhere starving. That's what I want.
Yeah, exactly. It's the whole it's just ridiculous. Like, I no, you're right. I don't want people to be murdered. It's like it's like I see a person on the street who's homeless and being attacked and stabbed with a knife, and I go and try to defend that person. Therefore, I'm obligated to take care of that homeless person for the rest of my life. No, I'm not obligated.
You adopted him the second you tried to save his life.
Second I tried to save his life. Police officers should be they should have, this huge collection of people that follow them around in their home that they've naturally adopted. It's ridiculous. It is the stupidest thing. It's irrational.
Right.
But you're right. People have somehow in their brains made a moral equivalence. I'll be honest with you, Haley. I've been honest with you so far, so I'm just going to keep the policy going.
So you're not like, now I'll be honest.
I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I shouldn't say that anymore. But it's the to be frank. How about that?
I knew what you meant. I'm not a literalist like those who are, who we've just been describing.
Yeah, exactly. To be quite candid, the issue that I think is the problem, I think, with all of this stuff is I think it boils down to church leadership. I think the problem in America is in the pulpit.
Yes.
I'm actually a massive fan of Leonard Ravenhill. I think that his works need to be read and reread. And he's a man, he was a prophet in his day. And he famously said, the reason why we have so many pygmies in our pews is because we have so many puppets in our pulpits. And it's true. Yeah. I believe this. I'm not trying to pick on pastors because I'm just being a meanie. I'm trying to say that when I walk into a house and the children are jumping all over the place and torturing the cat and eating garbage that's horrible for them, that's going to give them colon cancer later in life, and they're swinging from the rafters or whatever. I don't look at the children. I look at the parents. Right. I say, where are the people who are responsible for this home? Right. Where are they? Why aren't they disciplining their home and bringing order into their chaos as responsible adults? The Bible clearly puts an onus and a responsibility upon the men who lead the church. Peter calls them shepherds. He calls them overseers. Paul uses that Greek word episkopos, the person who, the episkopos, the person who sees over. They are the bishop, the pastor of the church is responsible for he's responsible for two main things. He's responsible to feed the flock and to guard the flock. Right. To feed the flock is to teach the flock and to actually instruct the flock, which is where we get the word catechesis from. That's a Greek word for instruction. When you are catechized, you are instructed on the faith. You are given you are given the basic elements of what it means to be a Christian, to what it means to believe in the faith, what it means to become a Christian in the faith, what it becomes to belong in the faith. These things, are so foundational, but we don't even do them anymore in our churches. We're not feeding people properly. We're not defining our basic doctrine for people so that they have an understanding of moral theology. Like, how many people, Haley, could tell you what the 10 Commandments are? I mean, how many? Like, just, hey, off the top of your head, what are the 10 Commandments? And in order, what are they? That's a basic catechetical idea. Like, if you go through a basic catechesis, this is a new believers class, in a basic instruction in the Christian faith, you should be able to go through the 12 articles of the Nicene Creed, that ground sound doctrine, ground a person in the Word, ground a person in what the Bible means, why it's infallible, why it's inerrant, why we believe these things about Scripture, what the gospel is. Some people don't even know what the gospel is, and they've been going to church for 20 years.
Well, and I am testament to that, because until I was an adult, I was raised in a Christian home, learned about Jesus since the day I was born, but I don't think I had the term the gospel. And I remember the first time I heard that explained to me in church, I was like, oh, that brings into summation everything I was ever taught, but in a way that identifies what the point of it was, and it was like sort of a light bulb moment. Like, why didn't anyone just put it that way so simply? Why was here's who Jesus was, here's who God was, here's the Holy Spirit. Like, not that those things are irrelevant, but I didn't have a context. And so the way that I learned about them was different and very much more on a legalistic way, because I didn't have the context of the gospel, the good news, like what God did to rescue us, and how Jesus was the plan for salvation, and so right. I think even growing up in a church my entire life, being a believer as long as I can remember, I would say was kind of tragically deficient in that understanding of such basic concepts.
It's like, that is so normal. Yes, like, you are not an aberration in that experience. That is unfortunately normal thing for people to not be instructed on basic issues. I'm not even talking again about systematic theology. Systematic theology, that's like next level theology. I'm talking about the basics. Yes. What is the gospel? What do we believe about the Bible? What do we believe about the basic fundamental creed of the church, the Nicene Creed, that has been the test of Christian orthodoxy, separating Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses from Christians? It's like, this is the fundamental of their faith. What are the 10 Commandments, and what are the moral implications of them? What does it mean? What is the Lord's Prayer? What does it mean to pray and to be devoted to the Lord in prayer and in that way every day? These are fundamental groundings of faith, hope, and love. Those are the virtues that as we grow in those areas, we grow in faith, hope, and love, which is our direct relationship to the Lord, and in that sense grow in our maturity, Christian maturity. Yeah. It's like, people don't, and here's the thing, Haley, if people don't know, because what we're talking about more so right now is moral issues, dealing with abortion and dealing with these other issues in our culture. But if people don't even know the 10 Commandments, that means that they don't even know what to obey.
Yeah.
And so if you're telling me, you're trying to order your life in obedience to God, but you don't even know where to start. So Lord, true. Where do I even begin to obey? So people, it's this confusion, which is the enemy. It's this intellectual anarchy that breeds this confusion over us, that it dulls our minds, dulls our senses, and then we begin to accept these things slowly because it's like this fog, this
Yes.
moral fog moves in, and it, as a mist, it
Right.
covers everything so that we can't see properly and walk straight in the
Yes.
world and be salt and light. It's darkness. It is
Yeah.
darkness.
You're
And
right.
so I just believe that the onus is on pastors to properly disciple their people, and our discipleship has to work from the ground up. It can't be, like, well, this is my thing. As a pastor, I really like this topic here, so this is kind of what I'm known
Hmm.
for. It's
Hmm.
like, no, that's not how the church was built. It wasn't a special interest club, and it
Right.
wasn't, and pastors shouldn't be preaching sermons that are like all
Here's my
special interest.
theme. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm the
special
social
interest
justice
sermons.
warrior church. Yeah.
Yeah, this, at this church, we're really just about, you know um you know running our cafe that we created in the city. It's like,
Yes. Okay.
it's
But you're
like,
getting a little too close to home here because people
oh,
are getting
oh,
uncomfortable. They don't
oh,
like it. They don't like
oh,
that.
talking about
They like
cafes.
their cafe.
No,
Um,
it's,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
a church is like, yeah, this is what we're really about. It's like,
We're about
yeah,
this. Yeah.
we're the church that is known for this particular special interest.
Right.
And it's just like, yeah, that is just showing me you really don't know what you're about.
Right.
You're
You've
just
become a brand.
grasping for things that work. What's
Right.
that?
They've become a brand, I mean, they're differentiating themselves the way a brand like Adidas would differentiate itself from Nike. Well, we're about soccer and
Yeah, yeah. If you
running
like,
clothes and
if you like
yeah.
this, you'll love our church.
Right,
Instead of
right.
instead of saying, no, 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 we are the church. We
Right.
are the church that Jesus founded, in the sense of we are part of the church that Jesus founded, with
Hmm.
the same doctrine consistent for the last 2,000 years. We have the thread of theological and doctrinal biblical consistency that
Right.
that if a church father came to our church, he would say, yeah, this is a Christian church.
Hmm.
These people believe in the Trinity. These people believe in the divinity of Christ. These people believe in hell. These people believe in heaven. These people believe in salvation, in repentance
Hmm.
from dead works. These people believe in basics. They also live a moral life. They
Hmm.
live and they live in accordance with the Ten Commandments, and they have a prayer life where they pray properly in
Yeah.
devotion to the Lord. It's like, that's these elements. So all I'm saying is, it's not rocket science, in my opinion. I
Right.
don't think a pastor needs a PhD in order to understand the basics, and to
No.
help
Right.
his people understand the basics. But
Hmm.
I'm just saying this: unless we begin to concentrate on these issues of basic Christian, what mere Christianity is, as C.S. Lewis famously wrote about, unless we begin to understand mere Christianity, we will end up with no Christianity. Because what's
Exactly.
happening is, is an invasion. There is
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
infiltration within the church of like literally 100 different heresies
Right.
at
Well,
the same time.
and to go back to your analogy of the house, you've got a house with the kids flying through the rafters and eating the
Yeah.
garbage and lighting things on fire.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
okay, where's the parents? Oh, there's the parents. They're saying, you know, um, hey guys, I had you so you could glorify me, or I had you so you could obey, but they're providing no oversight or no instruction, like you said, of how that looks. How does it look? And then what you've got is somebody left the front door open, the neighbor kids came in, and they're now indoctrinating the children, saying, hey, I know how you can do what your parents want. I know how
Yeah,
you can glorify your parents. I know how you can make them happy. You can help me graffiti the living room. Come over
yeah,
here. This is what we're
yeah.
going to do to make your parents real proud. And you've got the neighbor kids in there, and they're providing concrete examples and instruction of how to live. And the kids
Exactly.
are like, okay, like if
Let's
somebody's
do
got
that.
a plan for me, let's do that. It sounds good. Like,
That sounds fun. I
that
mean, a
sounds
lot
fun.
of this, the
Yeah.
appeal, right? The appeal is pretty basic. Like, oh, this pleases my instincts,
Yeah.
so it
Doesn't
must
this
be
feel
right.
good? Doesn't this
Yeah,
feel good?
feels great. So let's
Yeah.
do it. It's like that is that's that's everything. That's everything. I mean, like, you know, that's the basis of sin, of the flesh, of
Yeah.
the appeal to turn the stone into bread, you know, like if it feels good, do it. And um
And we wonder, but you know, we shouldn't, any believer who's just like, oh, woe is me, what is the world, how has it come to this? It's like you said, I mean, I think we can see pretty quickly how it's come to this. And I too don't want to heap all the blame on pastors as though it's like it's only them, and we didn't have anything to do with it, because of course we do. But it's like, I mean, hello, the front door was left open. You let the crazy neighbor kids who are, you know, psychopaths come in and indoctrinate your children, and you're
instead of
wondering,
guarding,
right?
as I said, the role of a shepherd is to guard and feed, guard
Mhm.
and feed. So you guard the sheep and feed them at the same time.
Right.
And if the wolves come in and start eating the sheep, and the sheep go crazy and scatter and are malnourished, that's on you. I mean,
Mhm.
it's then, and if you don't want to guard and feed, get a new job. Listen, there's plenty of jobs out there. I
Yeah.
mean, the
Maybe
workforce,
maybe fewer now though with Biden. I mean,
I
maybe
mean, maybe fewer with Biden. I mean, apparently we lost 70,000
don't
jobs
go
or
into
something this month.
oil. Don't go into oil.
Don't go into oil. Yeah, exactly. The pipeline's gone. But it's like, it's like, you know, if I don't mind, like, that's fine. Like, if I didn't like what I was doing, I would find a new thing to do that I really like doing. If you don't feel called to ministry and you're like, you know, I'm just not a pastor. I think I'm a CEO type. You know,
Yeah.
I really like to read books about being a CEO. When I'm on the beach, you know, my reading material isn't, you know, like, it's not like theology and like
Mhm.
how to deepen my understanding of my own understanding as a leader of scripture and
Right.
the
It's how to
Bible
win
and
friends and
doctrine.
influence people.
It's how to win for, it's Jesus CEO. Like,
Yeah.
okay, well then go start a company, bro. Like,
Yeah.
nobody's begging you to be a pastor. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, you'll probably make more money
Yeah.
actually. You know,
Mhm.
it's like if that's what you want to do, but
Mhm.
it's like, it's don't turn the church into corporate America. Don't turn
Yeah.
the church into Starbucks. Don't turn the church into something that it's never supposed to be. And it's like an abomination almost. It's a
Yeah.
sacrilegious joke.
Yeah.
I just think that, again, I you know, look, we live in a culture, that a Christian evangelical culture, that talks about leadership all the time. Leader, 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 right? Like, you're the leader, we're the leader, he's the leader, we're the leader. It's like a big leader musical, you know? It's like leader, leader here, leader there.
Just
It's like, okay,
shout
great.
leader and somebody will do something that they should.
Exactly. It's like leadership show tunes or something. And that's great. But the first point of a leader is that he takes responsibility. You're not a leader if you don't take responsibility. You're not a good leader if you don't take responsibility. And so, you know, I'm just calling leaders to take responsibility for their actions.
Mhm.
I'm saying, fine, if you want to talk about leadership all the time, that's great. Well, be a responsible person. That's, you know, that's the number one
Right.
quality, in my
And
opinion, of a leader.
yeah.
And then number two, be wise. Be wise. Wisdom is justified by her children. Make decisions that aren't based on what works, but what ought to work.
Yeah.
Decisions that are going to serve you in the future, so that you haven't turned your church into a nursery, but you've turned your church into an armory. It's not like babies don't want battles, babies want bottles.
Right.
What we've done is we've created these massive, wonderful churches that are full of babies
Mhm.
that nobody knows what's going on. Babies don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I can't get, I have to share this ridiculous analogy. You're going to laugh. But as you were describing, we don't want a nursery. Well, I do actually have a 15-month-old who, as you're describing, the job is to feed and to guard. Well, okay, no, what you just said that prompted this thought was, don't do what works, do what ought to work. So anyone who has like a toddler, like a 15 to 18-month-old, knows that they don't really want to eat what they should eat. The healthy things, they don't really necessarily they're not born liking fruit.
Right,
Some of
right.
them are, they're definitely not born liking vegetables, but babies just like what tastes good,
Interesting.
bread, cheese, yogurt, dairy, starches. Like that's what my child wants.
Cheetos.
She just wants, yes, Cheetos. She would eat Cheetos. My baby wants bread and dairy.
Cheeto baby.
Yeah, she is a Cheeto baby. She wants bread and dairy, bread and dairy. So if she's throwing a fit, if she's fussy, if she's hungry, I know she's hungry. She's not going to eat the healthy option or the thing I want her to eat, the strawberry, the blueberry. She's going to shove her thumb in it and scream for a cheese stick. You know, that's what she wants. She wants a cheese stick. And so I have fallen into this bad pattern of just giving her the dang cheese stick because I'm like, stop screaming at me. Fine, here, be fed. Stop being hungry. You're hangry and you're not going to be able to think straight until you get some food in you. So I give her the cheese stick, and now I've created a pattern where when she's hungry, she knows that if she throws a fit, I'll give her the cheese stick. And so now I've got a problem on my hands where it's like, I need to actually, I'm gonna have to work a lot harder now to undo this addiction to the cheese stick every day after she wakes up, because I have done what worked, not what ought to work, and so it's exactly like you're saying. It's just the same. Anyone who's a parent who's tried to feed a kid knows that you run into you create a monster really that is now out of your control, and you've created a monster that expects the cheese, needs the cheese, wants the cheese. It has no reason not to want the cheese because
that's amazing.
You've been feeding them the cheese every day. What do you think they're going to want? They want what they eat. They crave what they consume. And so it's your fault. It's honestly my fault. I can't blame her. Of course she's going to like the cheese. I can't blame.
Right.
It's my fault.
Well, and it's so true. And in a church analogy, people as children like garbage. They like that's no, they like it. They like total garbage. Like they love McDonald's. People even love McDonald's. Kids love McDonald's.
Who doesn't love McDonald's fries? Tell me one person who doesn't.
I mean, I love them.
I love them.
I love them. Like when I fast, I think of McDonald's fries. I'm just like the devil's just holding those, like the swirling in my mind, just going around and around and around. Like, oh. Yeah. So it's interesting though, because people, if children could eat, and even kids, if they could eat anything they wanted to, they would eat Captain Crunch and chicken fingers and donuts and pizza their whole life. And it's just like, dude, you're going to get colon cancer eventually. And when we come to church and the pastor's like, yeah, that sermon went off, didn't it? Yeah, it did, because it was chicken fingers and Captain Crunch and donuts and pizza. And it's like, and your people are going to end up getting spiritual colon cancer because their faith, they get into a crisis moment in their life. Something doesn't go the way they want. God's trying to help them to mortify their flesh, and they think the enemy's attacking them, and they think that God, and then they go from that to thinking God doesn't exist because this bad thing happened to me. When it's like, no, God's actually just trying to mature you and put you through a wilderness, but you're so weak and anemic, you can't handle 5 seconds without a breathing machine in the spirit. And so you got to hook up to all these programs to get you alive. You're living on services instead of living on the Savior, instead of actually having the life of Christ in you daily. You have to get, the podcast from Haley. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, but no, I'm so glad you're saying this, because it's exactly right. And because, frankly, sadly, I say all the time on Instagram, I really encourage people, please don't ever let a podcast or turning to Instagram or turning to an app replace your local church. I am not a replacement for your pastor. This community on Instagram is not a replacement for a small group or a local community. Like, I say that all the time, but I nonetheless always get people who say, but I don't have a church near me who is preaching the truth. Like what you are saying on Instagram or what you say on your podcast, even though I'm not a pastor or preacher, or I have no degrees in that field, and I'm literally 2 to 3 years into learning at the level that I am now learning, I would say I'm still on the low end of maturity. That people say, like, I don't have churches that will speak the truth, or will actually stand up to culture, or will speak to the practical issues that are, the political issues that we're facing. I can't find that. It doesn't exist where I am. And I don't know if that's always the case, but it's so true because of what you're saying. People are, pastors do what works, because they want to grow, and they don't want to offend half their population by saying, what my pastor did. I don't know how you can be a Christian and vote for policies like abortion. I don't know how you can be a Christian and vote for policies that are clearly unbiblical, that, say that same-sex unions should be legalized. I mean, or should be okay. Like, he said those things, and I'm sure people got offended. I'm sure people left the church. But the ones who are the true body of Christ, who were like, thank you, Jesus, that someone is speaking truth to this, I wanted to stand up and cheer, because it was so countercultural. It was so not what most pastors do, that it was just like, it fired me up. It got me I was like, I want to go up, and I'm emboldened to speak the truth, even in the face of a culture,
we can't allow, listen, I like being liked. I love being liked. I would love, I remember it in high school, like you walk into the lunchroom and you're like, dang, that's the cool kid table, and I really want to be there. It's like, I would love to be prom king. It's like all these things. You want to be liked. You want to be. So these whenever someone is rejected, whenever a pastor experiences rejection and people walk away from his church, there is a hurt there. There is that Monday morning, oh, man, that's a lot. This family got offended at what I preached. It's like, this sucks.
Yeah.
They're our biggest giver, or whatever. Yeah. But it's like, these things go into your brain. But honestly, it takes courage. It does. And sometimes it takes heroic courage to stand up and be a Daniel. We talk about this in youth group. Be a Daniel. Defy culture. Defy the idols. Stand up against the idol that they want you to bow down and worship. And our pastors themselves are struggling to be Daniels in their own church.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me say this. How can you expect people to be Daniels in the culture if you can't even be a Daniel in your own church?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Come on.
And
like,
if
you're discipling, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Pastors are discipling people. The reason why people vote the way they do is because the pastors vote that way.
Exactly.
The reason why people don't care about abortion is because the pastors don't care about abortion.
Exactly.
The people
are justified, because they're like, well, hey, I mean, my pastor's on Twitter, like my ex-pastor is, saying, I'm so grateful that my little girl has a vice president in Kamala Harris to look up to now. And she was watching the inauguration with me, saying, I want to be like her someday. And they're lauding and applauding it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't even begin to.
I can't wait for my little daughter to light the world on fire. I can't wait for my little daughter to persecute people who want to protect the unborn.
Right.
Like, that's essentially what you're saying.
But it's Christian celebrity idolatry, really. And even beyond that, it's worse. It's actually just secular worldly idolatry, because there's nothing reflected of biblical truth or of glorifying God in someone like Kamala Harris. And yet, why then do we have pastors tweeting how great and how glad they are, or even social justice woke Christians who are ministry leaders or whatever, some of the names I'm sure you've seen on Twitter this week, bashing other Christians because they don't buy the woke narrative, and it's just like, why? Why?
I'll be honest with you, Haley, I don't really follow a lot of people on Instagram. I personally think that it's just a cesspool, and I'm only on there so that I can promote Theos U, because I think it's just like, there's so much that I actually, when I read people's stories, I actually get like, I'm just like, I can't believe, all I want to do is respond and say, this is garbage. But I actually believe that we should try to be as polite as possible. So, and I don't like, personally, excuse me, I don't like trolling people's accounts.
No,
so
I don't do that either.
If I see somebody I disagree with, like, I know sometimes it's popular within the Reformed guy movement to like troll and be like, this guy's preaching heresy, know your heretics, heretics. And I've seen accounts that do that. They're like, actually like put, people's faces on the thing. This guy's a heretic. I'm like, okay, well, how about, maybe that's not actually the approach, is to name names in that way. Maybe it's better to just name the heresy. I personally like heresy hunting more than I like heretic hunting,
Mm-hmm.
because I just think it's uncharitable to
Yeah,
like
I can see that.
to like to like say to drag
Mm-hmm.
a person through the mud. I just,
Mm-hmm.
unless I have authority over that person, like they're under me,
Mm-hmm.
in authority, or even maybe a peer in authority. I just don't think I have a right to do
Yeah.
so. But I do think we should talk about heresy
Mm-hmm.
loud and proud. Talk about the issues, deal with the issues, talk about woke theology, the aspects of it, get people to handle the real money so that they can detect the counterfeit.
Yeah. I do want to ask you a couple more questions because we're
Yeah.
up on time here, but one of the things, I mean, and I don't even know if I prefaced this whole conversation, but you did share about how you're anti-abortion on your Instagram stories. I think I said that.
Yeah.
And you had a few things, but you've covered a lot of it. Why I'm anti-abortion, because I'm anti-euphemism. That was a great point I think you made. And you said I'm pro capital punishment, pro just war, pro family. But can you kind of quickly summarize, what did you mean by some of those things, and why is that
Yeah.
relevant? I think we talked about capital punishment,
Uh-huh.
but I don't know if we talked about the
I can
euphemism
briefly,
and
yeah, I can briefly
type.
touch on them. Yeah, just basic. So the 5 points, the main 5 points were, I'm not pro-life because I'm anti-abortion, and I kind of used this analogy of, a woman trapped in the mouth of a crocodile. The immediate reaction isn't thinking about all the extrinsic things that are pertinent to her, well, if I rescue her, her dress might get ripped and she'd be naked. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, okay, that might happen. You might see some stuff, but her life will be saved. Instead of thinking about her dress being ripped, or we might not be able to take her to a hospital because there might not be a hospital nearby. So let the crocodile eat her. No,
Yeah.
it's like, do your best to bandage her wounds. It's like the idea is that and then kind of when you realize that there's more to the context of just a simple crocodile, there's actually a nefarious, sinister plot here,
Mhm.
satanic plot, actually, to destroy the lives of the unborn. It's even more of a motivation to be anti crocodile.
Right.
And so
Right.
I look at abortion as this systemic leviathan, this
Mhm.
systemic monster that needs to be destroyed. And so I'm anti-abortion, and then anti-euphemism, in the sense that I think pro-life, the term pro-life, is a euphemism, instead of, it's clear that the opposition is pro-abortion.
Mhm.
So to be clear in our terms and counter in our terms, we should logically say we are anti-abortion. If they're pro-abortion, the logical position, they're not pro-death.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? They're not
Yeah.
pro-death. They wouldn't
Right.
say, yeah, we're pro-death, because they'll even say, no, we believe in helping, immigrants. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Mhm.
We believe in helping, people and assisting them in healthcare. That's wonderful. So they would never say that they're pro-death. Why are we saying we're pro-life? We're just shifting, we're
Yes.
playing the same shell game. When they say they're pro-choice, we're actually playing the same shell game that they are. They're clearly pro-abortion, and we should be clearly anti-abortion. So
Yes.
anti-euphemism, and then I'm anti, or I'm pro capital punishment, and I believe that in capital, as I said, capital crimes deserve capital punishments, and then I'm also pro just war. So I believe that we're allowed to kill not only individuals in a proper, legitimate uh, sense, lawfully, but also I believe we're allowed to defend and kill in the name of defense.
Mhm.
And I believe abortion is defending the life, or to be anti-abortion is to defend the life of the preborn child, a
Mhm.
child that's already been born, in the sense of already been conceived, and all that it needs is time and nourishment to continue to grow, just like
Yes.
being outside of the womb. All that it needs is that those basic things that everybody needs. I believe to be anti-abortion is to be defensive. It's a war of defense.
Mhm.
And then lastly, I believe I'm pro-family. I believe that it's not just being pro-birth. I'm pro-family. The point of all of this is that the family is the foundation of all institutions. The family, without the family, you have no society. Without the family, there is no great big society at all, because society writ large is actually a collection of families writ small. And in that sense, if we don't defend the family, and if we don't become aggressive with being pro family, explicitly so that all of our policies within the state reflect that, not just simply individual rights, but family rights, not just group rights, but family rights, because the family is a collection of individuals. It is a group of particular people. But the family, in that sense, we know from the very fact that God himself is a family, the Trinity is a family, and Jesus was born into a family, father, mother, and child. We know that this is the ideal. This is what God has created for us, and this is how we are to live. And so to be a pro, to be pro-life isn't really to be pro-family necessarily. So it does play into that. And then the point of birth is family. And then I would add the sixth reason, which I didn't even get into, but the sixth reason is the fact that I'm tired of the politicking. I'm tired of 50 years of politicking, of turning the whole movement into a racket, of trying to profiteer off this movement. And there are whole swaths of the movement that are just like, there are whole channels that have been created, ad nauseum and apparently forever as pro-life organs. And I'm like, no, like William Wilberforce didn't create all of these, these organs that never went out of business because they were making money all the time on the issue. There's actually a motivation for people in terms of making money to keep abortion legal.
Even on the conservative side as well.
And if we make abortion illegal, they're out of a job.
Exactly. And it's sick. Yeah.
It's really gross. Sick. And so that's that. Anyways, that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate how you laid that all out. And I think that it gives people something to think about. And I think something to consider shifting our approach. I mean, for anyone who would have kind of said, I am pro-life, that I do believe in this cause, to question how we're talking about it and how, I mean, even just at an individual level, someone might be listening and be like, okay, cool. You don't like pro-life. What am I supposed to do differently? Say the truth, like say you're anti-abortion and say why, and use,
simplify,
right. Use the things you said. Yes.
Get lean, get, it's just simplify your life. Get rid of all the clutter. It's like, oh, really? like just clean it all out, clean your garage. The pro-life movement is this like this garage of things that have been collected. What do they call people like that have like
hoarders?
A collection? A hoarder. It's like we've become hoarders. And it's gross. And we need to get into the garage and get our hands dirty and start clearing all this junk out and saying, no, this garage is for my car. That's what it's for. Or, this garage is for this purpose. And it's not functional. Our movement is not functional. We need to reorder, rebrand, get people focused again, concentrated, and make it a deliberate effort to end this issue. Deal with all the secondary and tertiary and whatever issues after that has been dealt with, but deal with the primary target. Don't lose focus. Don't lose focus on the target, the crocodile. Deal with that crocodile. Get that issue solved. Right.
And I think I'm probably going to butcher this quote, but there is a quote that's somewhere like, I don't know who said it. If the enemy can't tempt you or deter you, he will just make you ineffective. And that's what's happened. It's not like he's changed our minds. It's not like everyone who is pro-life is like, now I've been sold and now I believe abortion is good for humanity. It's just that we've become so incredibly ineffective because I think of a lot of the bloat that you're talking about, because of the politicking, because of the partisan politics, which have bought us hook, line, and sinker and told us that if you vote for me, I will champion this cause. And then it just so happens, even Trump, and I voted for him, but I'll be critical of him that he waited, 4 years into his presidency to actually start doing anything meaningful. I feel like on the pro-life side, I mean, maybe I'm being unfair, but it just felt like, I was like, when he was doing stuff near the end, I was like, wait, why are you just now doing this? I'm confused, almost like it had been
it's
like
not
held
just
like
Trump.
a carrot.
It's not just Trump.
Him. I know.
It's every president,
yeah.
every conservative president before him.
Yeah.
George W. Bush had 8 years.
Right.
8
Did he
years.
do anything at all?
He appointed a Supreme Court justice who's probably one of the worst in the last 40 years, Justice John Roberts.
Yes.
The guy is a mess. The guy he's essentially voted with the woke liberal leftism side every single opportunity he's had. Right. The guy, John Roberts, was appointed by George W. Bush. Well, so it's like
George W. Bush is like the biggest fan of Biden now, So I mean,
yeah, they're all buddies.
Showing his true colors.
It's such a sham.
Yeah,
it's such a sham. So it's I'm done with it. I just don't think, I would even, I mean, I just think that we need to become clearer and clearer on the issues that matter. And we need to get rid of the clutter and really the distraction. What you're talking about, if the devil can't make you bad, he'll make you busy, he'll make you if he can't make you depraved, he'll make you distracted. Yeah. It's that whole thing of like, he'll distract your focus. He'll take your eyes off of something that matters and put it onto something that doesn't. Right. And then preoccupy your time, and you're just these are sins of omission, and then you become useless. Yeah. So we need to we need to refocus, rebrand. I've rebranded. I've totally rebranded.
You're rebranded. You're going to lead the campaign.
Rebranded. Huh?
Okay. You're going to lead the campaign on that?
I'm on a warpath. I mean, whoever wants to join can join. I'm just, when people tell me, again, when people say aren't you pro-life? I say, no, I'm not. And they're like, what? Their brain goes into some sort of like
freak out
shock. Yeah. They triggered, Yeah. And then they're like, well, you're not pro-life. Well, what are you then? I'm anti-abortion. That's what I am.
Ooh, it's like, mic drop.
I never thought about it. It's like, exactly, you didn't. But it's like, we're back, and we're back, and we're better than ever. We are abolitionists. That's what we are. We're here to kick butt and take names. We're not here to waste time and to go off the reservation on all these other issues that are really inconsequential to the main problem.
Right.
And that are not even close to the moral equivalent.
Exactly.
So no, we need to be strategic. The Bible clearly tells us that we cannot be, we have to be aware of the devil's schemes. The devil, he goes about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour, but we have to understand that the devil is smart. The devil strategizes, and he sees us, he watches us, he sees what can get us distracted. Demons watch us. I mean, look at the Screw Tape letters.
I know, I was about to say that. Yeah.
The Screw Tape letters, I mean, they are the most practical book on demonology that you can find. And what you find in that is that demons are pragmatic. They, Dante, who wrote the Divine Comedy, in his Inferno, his part on hell, he notes that the demons can't philosophize. And the truth is that the demons aren't able to reason, but they are able to see what you do instinctively, kind of in an animalistic sense, and and see what works. Yeah. So they can't tie it all the pieces together. They can't tie it all together in a philosophical sense and think in the abstract, but they can see, oh, this is his weak point.
Right.
This will get them distracted.
Right.
This will get them off course.
Right.
So
Like a lion or a tiger with its prey, it knows how to distract them or create a diversion to, sneak attack.
Exactly. And that's the demonic. We look at the demonic as like, oh, the boogeyman, and sometimes it is, but most of the time it's just the demons are just trying to get you distracted. They're just trying to mess up your day. They're just trying to, give you that fake emergency call just before you go to church so that you don't go. Yeah. They're trying to, you know what I'm saying? They're just trying to get in the way of your prayer life. They're just trying to, make you stay up late before a podcast so that you're tired when you're doing it. No, I'm kidding.
I wouldn't have known. I mean, you're pretty sharp. You're pretty with it today. So I think I'm afraid of what you would have been like if you hadn't been tired. Then I might have been like, I can't control him.
I was up a little late last night, and it's all good. I'm a night owl, as I said to you earlier, but
you can take a nap later.
God, no, I gotta power through. If you take a nap, then you're done.
The day is shot.
Then you turn into a vampire. I go vampire time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, man, I've taken so much of your time already. I have one final question. This is something I forgot to ask you earlier.
Yeah.
You've probably heard this, and I've heard this from several friends, and it's really been problematic, I think, for me. I am personally pro-life, but not politically pro-life. Have you heard this from people?
Yeah. Well, politicians
I'm personally
love this one.
pro-life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even Joe Biden would say that. Yes, but not politically. Yeah, I think other people should be able to have abortions. I wouldn't have an abortion. If you're asking how I feel, I wouldn't have one. But I think anyone should have access at any time to have one, right? So, and obviously, I think this is just maybe a symptom of, again, the poor pastoring, the poor understanding of our role as salt and light in the world. Viewing it that as though what God really cares about is just what you would do, not how you would live in the world or not what kind of society you would create. It's just about you and your personal ethic. I mean, it's honestly kind of revealing about our self-obsession too.
Yeah. Haley, I mean, I don't want to be a mean person. I want to be liked. I want to be likable. Okay. But, but this might upset some people. It's a cop-out.
Oh, of course.
It's an excuse. It's unreason. It's an emotional.
Yeah.
It's an emotional answer that makes them feel good about being personally opposed without actually having to put themselves on the line and actually put their reputation on the line, maybe put something on their Instagram that would get people to unfollow them. Oh, yeah. God forbid.
Right.
God forbid you say something that might trigger someone in the wrong way. It's a cop out from actually engaging in the battle.
Exactly.
And from being for putting skin in the game.
Yeah.
The truth is that we come up with all of these excuses, and it's interesting because think about it this way. You would never put the word racism in there, would you? Like it's funny, like when or sex trafficking or something that's a popular agenda.
Right.
You'd never say personally opposed. Hey guys, I'm personally opposed to racism, but I just don't think that we should target it in the law. I mean, if people
want to be racist, let them be racist.
If people want Jim Crow laws, where black people have to, use a separate bathroom and that's the law, I'm fine with that because I'm personally opposed to Jim Crow. You'd never hear that. People would laugh you out. They would throw you out. They would cancel your butt. So it's like, what happened to that? I'm personally opposed to sex trafficking, but I just don't think, I'm not going to be in it to end it. Not going to be in it to end it, guys.
Right.
It's like we all jump on the bandwagon when the bandwagon comes around. And the truth is that, at least they have at least they're outspoken on those issues. The issue is that it takes no courage to be outspoken on those issues. As Chesterton says, any dead thing can go downstream. It takes a living thing to go upstream, to go against the current. And the truth is that abortion is never cool. Let me say this, it's never going to be cool to be anti-abortion.
No.
if you're looking for a movement that's cool, where all the Hollywood celebrities are getting involved, this isn't it.
No. Keep looking.
Keep looking. This is, I mean, it's like, it's not going to be cool because this goes against their hedonistic lifestyle,
Yeah.
you know, because abortion is tied to promiscuity. Abortion is the essentially the back door to having sex anytime you want with whoever you want, you know, these mistakes, you know, it's directly tied to the sexual revolution. It's the sacrament of the sexual revolution. And so that's a massive issue that we could get into elsewhere. But the point is simply that, no, it's simply a cop-out, because you would never say that about any other issue other than abortion. You would never say personally opposed, but politically no. The truth is that that our laws are supposed to be grounded in morality. They're supposed to be grounded in ethics. And if they're not grounded in justice ethics, then they're unjust. St. Augustine said an unjust law is no law at all. And so all law is supposed to be grounded in the natural law, which is grounded in the eternal law. And that that is the basis of law. If your law, people are like, you can't legislate morality. Well, then why are you trying to legislate morality with anti-racism
That's all
laws?
is legislating morality.
Well, exactly. And if your laws aren't legislating morality, then they're legislating immorality. I mean,
right.
It's like the whole, it's like, there's no medium, there's no middle ground here on this issue. And people are, well, that's just black and white. Well, no, it's right, it's wrong and right. It's light and darkness. You're either seeing the nature of law, because again, turn it on them. Look at what, like, it's so easy to one of the biggest things in argumentation in these days is intellectual dishonesty and hypocrisy, like where people contradict themselves and they don't even realize it. And that's what I kind of just did. I showed you how easy it is to show people how they contradict themselves.
Right.
When you turn it on them and use this, and you give them the same pie that they dish out, they don't like it.
Yeah.
They're
and
like, oh no, that's gross. Well, you gave it to me.
Right. Exactly. Well, and this is the benefit. I just want to say, like, isn't it, how fun is it to be on the side of truth? It's so fun to actually know that, look, even if I can't find like a fast comeback in the moment, I will be able to think about whatever you've said that is, you know, maybe going to give me a run for my money, trying to say, well, you know, like some of these friends have said to me, I'm personally pro-life, but I don't know about politically, you know, even if I don't have that comeback in the moment, I'm going to be able to find an inconsistency at some point down the road from this argument. And I will be able to draw back and go, look, here's where it breaks down. Here's where it doesn't work in real life. Here's where you've been inconsistent, because the only consistent position to have is the true one. There is no other position you can take that will actually be consistent all the way through. You will find either inconsistent with human nature, inconsistent with something else they've said, inconsistent with reality. It will break down. It has to. And this is like the coolest thing about how God designed everything to work, including his moral law, including the universe, including us, is that it all points to him and his answers he's given us.
Yes.
When you try and find another way through, it breaks down. The bridge collapses and you cannot get across the river, you know. And so it's a beautiful reality that we actually can always fall back on. Look, even if I'm not sure, you know, exactly what to say, I know that your position can't be consistent all the way through, and there's going to be a way for me to find the tear in the fabric, you know, or the thread that is loose that will actually cause the whole thing to unravel.
Yeah, if we are on the side of God, if we are on the side of truth, then yes, there is a moral order and there is a consistency and a logic in the universe, to the point where, you know, John in John chapter 1 verse 1 calls Jesus the Logos. That word means logic. Jesus is the Logos. He is the reason of the universe. And again, John is using Greek language. John is Jewish, and he's writing in Greek using a Greek word, logos, which would trigger the Gentiles and be like, the Logos? This is what the philosophers were talking about.
Mhm.
This is like this idea that Jesus is reason. Jesus gives us reason for everything, meaning and purpose. These are words connected to reason.
Mhm.
And so God is reasonable. God is not irrational. And that's another point, is God's mystical. God's mystical in the sense that we can't fully comprehend him, and we never will be able to fully comprehend
Right.
him. But even in his mystery, he has allowed us to understand the limits of it, and therefore call it a mystery and define it as a mystery. So
Mhm.
we can actually define the areas that are definable as mystery and the borderlines themselves, which is a function of reason. God made us in his image, and his image is reason. We have a rational soul. That's the distinction between us and animals. They have a sensitive soul. They're sensory. We are rational. We can think and understand in our minds. And that's why Paul says, be transformed by the renewing of your emotion. No, by
Mhm.
the renewing of your,
Mind. Yeah.
of your mind. Think about these things. Whatsoever things are true, praiseworthy. Think on these things. And so that's the whole
Mhm.
point, is that, yeah, we are on the side of truth, and we're not just trying to be smart. We're not just
Right.
trying to be
Right.
witty. We're not even just trying to be right. We're trying
Mhm.
to be truthful. We're trying to be, I would say righteous. We're
Yes.
trying to be righteous, and we find our righteousness in Christ, but we're trying to be truthful. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth,
Mhm.
and the life. And so, yes, it is wonderful to rest in the fact that God has the answers, and that
Mhm.
God, as we grow closer to him and are continually open to the truth,
Mhm.
he gives us the truth and sets us free. And it is liberating and wonderful to rest in that.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Man, well, thank you so much, Gabriel. It's been so fun to talk with you. And like I told you before I started recording, I know I have some followers and listeners here who are going to be just so delighted that they got to hear from you, because you are, by their quote, I'm not even making this up. They said he is my favorite person. So I don't know if I mean, I don't think they've even met you. They love you.
Yeah, I doubt that that's going to be the case after this podcast.
No, it'll be great.
Once they've seen the real Gabriel Finocchio go off, I'm sure
Well,
they're
they're
just like, this
they're
guy's
gonna
too much.
yeah, they're gonna love it. And I know that, they've asked me, they were like, this is a great topic, but I want you guys to talk about the gifts, because I do fall on the reformed side of things, and yet
Okay.
they are, I have followers who are not, and who love your Theos U. I've been sent people's logins, even been like, please go watch this, please go watch this, and I'm like, okay. Okay. So I
That's
literally,
so funny.
yeah, they're like, but I think it would be super interesting to do that another time.
That would be wonderful.
And yeah, love to have you back sometime. So
Yeah, we have reformed faculty.
mm,
And Dr. David Campbell, he is our Yoda, our
mm.
resident Yoda, and he is reformed, and he's a
Mhm,
church planter from a reformed movement in England,
mhm,
and a wonderful, kind, amazing guy, a
mm.
godly man of God, brilliant thinker,
Yeah,
and we love him.
awesome.
And so we believe that Orthodox conservative theology,
Yeah,
traditional historic theology, is Big Tent. We
yes,
we
it is.
believe
Yes,
we believe Orthodox theology should be Big Tent.
right.
Um,
And it's
and
we agree on way, way, way more than we disagree on. So I think
exactly,
it's great to be able to recognize that. I mean, I think it's the maybe the younger Christian or the baby Christian who's like, who do I need? Like you were saying, like, who do I need to be on guard against? Oh, you're bad. Okay, I don't like you. Instead of just
yeah,
being like, no, that's not. So there's issues that we can't have absolute confidence on, and where there's freedom in Christ to disagree, we can disagree. But on the big issues, like you mentioned, the Orthodox Christian, historic Christian faith,
yeah,
we come to the same place, we come to the same conclusion, and I think
yes.
that's really cool.
That's exactly the truth. And I believe that's what C.S. Lewis was writing about in Mere Christianity. And I think that if we're going to find unity in the body of Christ, it's going to be centripetal. It's
Mhm.
going to be towards the center.
Yeah,
It's not going to be centrifugal. It's not going to be towards the edges and the peripheries.
right.
That's all those ecumenical movements are tantamount to tying the tops of trees together and calling them one tree. No, there might be different branches on our tree, and that's the Lord's thing, and that's on God. But we are rooted in Christ. We are rooted in the gospel. We believe the same fundamentals and essentials of faith, and we can talk about other things and maybe come into a fuller understanding as we move towards the roots, and understand our roots and connect to our roots. That's the ecumenical movement I want to be a part of. I don't want to be a part of an ecumenical movement that ties the tops of trees together, that tries to find, it's like, no, we are the world, no, sorry. Yeah, you are the world and you need to get saved.
We are the church.
Yeah, exactly. We love LGBTQ. Yeah. What? We love gay marriage and abortion too. What? We sacrifice babies. The Church of Satan.
We're pro-life.
No. We're pro-life. No.
Okay. We gotta. Oh man, do you know any recording artists? Because I think we have a winner. We have a hit.
We're gonna re-record it. Somebody's gonna do a remix for sure.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much. Where can people find you online and connect with you, as well as
you can go on. I'm really only on Instagram. I deleted my Facebook, my fake book.
Your fake book.
And
take that, Mark. Take that.
Exactly. The Karens on Facebook are definitely missing me, but I deleted that, so I'm on Instagram. Gabriel Finochio is my handle on Instagram, and that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where you can find me. And then,
like you said,
theosu.ca is our website. And again, we have an app in the App Store called TheosU. I believe it's supposed to be called TheosU. I just don't know that actually offhand, and I should. But I'm obviously the CEO type, right? So
you need to read some more Jesus CEO books. I mean, just saying.
My leadership skills are so lacking. It's gross.
I'll send you some beach reads since you're just a little heavy on the theology side. I think.
I gotta get into systems. Well,
this has been so fun. Thank you again, and definitely have you back another time.
Appreciate
all your time and your wisdom.
Thanks for having me on, Haley.